All right, since we are in New York, I've been meaning to do this piece for a while. I decided no better time than now, especially because
lights down a little stuff. Thanks.
I've mentioned this guy a couple times, but I never mentioned him by name. But since this is just for the patrons, now I can do this because I don't want to promote him. Okay, so this guy, Cash Jordan, is making a fucking fortune playing on this fantasy nightmare vision of New York that a lot of parts of the country have always had. I mean, once I haven't really watched cop shows or network TV since I was a child. But when I do watch something like that, if I happen to be at somebody's house, it's like science fiction to me because what they'll make it look like is New York has 1978 style crime with the internet and cell phones. Those two things never occurred together. Those are completely different eras. But New York, I can understand. I've traveled around the country a lot. New York is so mysterious to people because it's so different from any other part of the country. The monologue is Spalding Gray said it best. He described it as an island off the coast of America. And in many ways, that is very true. And I think that is why there's this fascination with the idea of this dangerous subterranean New York where all of this crime and danger is around every corner. You watch a New York cop show today, and it's really a Western. You don't need the Old West to make a Western. You don't need 1970s crime to make a New York crime show. People just like that story. They like that story so much that this is why anybody who says, oh, you're a grifter, motherfucker, you think we're stupid? You think we don't know how you grift on the internet? You do shit like this. You feed people's confirmation bias. Oh, New York is burning down. Oh, all the stores in downtown LA are closed. And part of why there's such an audience for that is there's a moral element to it, right? It's they love the idea of these very blue cities getting what they deserve, right? There's always been that element of it. Remember Woody Allen, one of his movies, he says, the rest of the country thinks of us as homosexual, pedophile, pornographers. I think of us that way half the time. So that's what. Well, that's that is a big part of it. I think they like the morality tale of it, that New York is crumbling. So you can see this guy's stuff. New York is creating homeless people on purpose. New York is forcing companies to close. New York is destroying Central Park. Yeah, man, we just walked through Central Park last night. How was it?
It was lovely. There were women that were out jogging alone. Multiple women that were out jogging alone. There were people with their little children at around 9:30 at night. No one was under duress.
You sound like punched in the face.
I almost by him, but not anyone I didn't know.
You sound like you've been hired by Eric Adams. It's very safe at Central Park. You must stop.
You should jog to Central Park.
I mean,
Did you overpay for an ice cream? Is that what did it?
No.
I mean that.
You don't want to do that.
If he did a video about that, I'd be forced to concede.
Yeah.
So part of the trick that they play with this is they really give you very deceptive statistics. So all right, New York Post is always very reliable for the liberals and their bail reform, right? Okay, attacks in New York City Transit jumped massive 50% as subway murders surge. So so that's true as far as it goes. What they're not telling you is what that means is from 3 to 6.
Okay.
That's the 50% surge that they're talking about.
And that's because Ross is back in town.
That's it. And actually, while I was doing the Jimmy show,
Isn't that 100% surge? 3 to 6 is not 100%?
Yeah. Well, this was a recent one, so I mean, it's from 3 to 4 or something, 3 to 5, but you can see
with the Andrew Yang.
It was my understanding there was to be no math on the quiz. I'm a humanities guy, I'm not a math guy. But in any case, my point holds. All right, look at this. And this was worse than what we have now. This much I do know. We've had 3 murders so far this year. Now, we're halfway through the year, so you'll probably wind up with about 6 if it stays on that track. which would be 20. So your peak year was 8. 8. Okay, so what does that mean statistically in terms of your odds of getting killed in the subway after you leave the show? Okay, by annual ridership, the New York subway is the busiest transit system in the Western Hemisphere and the Western world. The subway carried 2,027,286,000 riders in 2023. So we crunched the math on this. So based on the peak year from this chart, 8 people killed. Your odds of being killed in the subway are 0.00000004. Your odds of being hit by lightning are literally greater. Literally greater than your odds of being killed in the subway. But this is not to say, welcome to New York, it's waiting for you. By the way, we hated that song in New York. It sold worse in the New York market than anywhere else in the country. Like many things that are marketed as being New York. Now, I want to be honest. Major crimes are down. Assaults are up. For whatever reason, white women keep getting punched in the face. Now, apparently, it was mostly one guy. So far, she's been all right. But there was one guy who was doing apparently most of it, who they arrested. You got to remember, you got 8.2 million people. All it takes is one for a few people to get punched in the face, right? It doesn't mean it's a epidemic, but there are some very serious problems. And just to let you know, 2023, just under 28,000 felony assaults last year, which is a lot. Now, what they don't want to tell you, they want to tell you it's bail reform. They want to tell you it's those people with their defunding the police. They want to tell you that. What they don't want to tell you is the cost for a family of 4 to live here is $8,340 a month. For a single person, it's $5,420. New York is the most expensive city in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Now, why is this important? Because New York is a caricature of national trends towards income inequality and an economy that doesn't work for the vast majority of its people. It is very much a reflection of what's happening throughout the United States. Monthly rent for a 900 square foot apartment is $4,970. Furnished in a normal area, that's an expensive area, in a normal area, $3,501. 480 square feet, expensive area, $4,000. Pair of jeans is $71. Okay. Summer dress, $69. Sports shoes, $117. Basic dinner for 2 in a neighborhood pub, $65. Italian restaurant, $136. One cocktail drink in a downtown club, $21. So this was an article done by Stefanos Chen in the New York Times, doing some good work here. Credit where credit is due. New York's rebounding for the rich. Nearly everyone else is struggling. As New York City inches closer to recovering all the jobs it lost during the pandemic, Manhattan, the city's economic engine, marked a far less encouraging milestone. It now has the biggest income gap of any large county in the country. The wealthiest fifth of Manhattanites earned an average household income of $545,549, or more than 53 times as much as the bottom 20%, who earned an average of $10,259. From 2019 to 2022, the median household income, when adjusted for inflation, fell below $75,000, a nearly 7% drop, 4 times the national rate of decline and the steepest slide among the largest American cities. And this is the result. They're not fleeing because the liberals and their bail reform and white women getting punched in the face. All that did happen, but not to a lot of people. Brooklyn, 28,000. Your borough, Bronx, 25,000. Queens, 26,000. I have my best friend's widow, who passed away a few years ago. For the first time, she can't rent. They have a 2-family who left it with. She hasn't been able to rent it for months. She's out in Queens. People are leaving, but it's not because of what Cash Jordan or these other. No, those are grifters. People are telling you, oh yeah, no, it's correct. You came over here and they won't have a problem. They won't get punched in the face today. No, nothing happened. No.
You can't reach his face.
So Jose, what do you have to say about this? You're running for office. Rent's too damn high, Jose.
I guess it's only natural that I'm supposed to comment on the affairs of New York City. I mean, like, it is an expensive place to live. It is only getting better for the rich. That's completely true. And there are people, I was kind of surprised actually. I saw this thing in the South Bronx, like in the worst of the Bronx. I saw a smokehouse, like with the ribs and stuff. And I saw a bunch of yuppies and buppies sitting there. And then just 2 blocks over is the OD capital of the world, just people completely dozing out. And I see all these new developments being done, all this quote unquote affordable housing where you need to make at least $130,000 a year to even qualify for. So it's not really affordable housing.
Right.
So who is this actually getting better for? It's not for the people of New York. They're trying to turn New York City into a playground for the rich. Okay, what is it? They took 10 years to make this one little yellow subway line, and it only goes up. It starts all the way down in Wall Street, and it only goes up to 96th Street. 96th Street. What the fuck is that for? That's for the Wall Street people, so they have their own personal subway line that they can use to get to work and back and not pay for Ubers every day or something.
For those of you not familiar with New York City geography, not surprisingly, it stops right before it gets into Harlem.
Mile, crocodile line.
Although, I will say,
Washington Heights too.
I will say, when I was going to high school, as a freshman in high school, it was always a safe bet. I'd get on the 2 train at 72nd Street. Train's cards full, no problem. I just see some white people somewhere, and I know they'll be getting off at 96th Street. Okay, safe bet. Take the seat. And then as I become a sophomore. As I'm becoming a sophomore, junior, senior, I'm like, okay, there's safe bet. I know there'll be a seat. Okay, 96th Street comes. Okay, maybe they'll get off next stop. 110th Street. Okay, we're getting pretty close to Harlem here. What's going on? 116th, they're still on. 125th. All right, come on. They're still on. I'm fucking tired. I want a goddamn seat. And they're still on, and they're still going all the way to 149th Street in the Bronx. Now I'm really pissed off because this used to be my fucking private train line. No hate to any of the constituents, though, who might live in the South Bronx now.
Anybody ever see, there's an old sci-fi cult classic, Brother from Another Planet?
Yeah.
All right, so you remember that scene where they're riding the subway up and the kid goes, watch, you're going to do a magic trick. And they get to 96th Street, he goes, all the white people are going to disappear.
It's funny. They say New York is the greatest city in the world, and I love New York City. I think it is the greatest city in the world. But for these prices, it really has to be, doesn't it? Like for the money you spend, and I lived here from 2010 to 2017, and you are reminded when you come back just how it kicks your ass to live here, just how brutal it is to live here. As someone, when I was living here, I didn't really notice it, but after we looked at this house here last night, we got into the room, made sure the tech worked, and then I took the train to my brother's apartment. And when I got down into the subway, I felt for the first time in 7 years that sweat roll down the center of my spine. You know what it is? That bead of sweat just starts under your hair and just rolls straight down, kind of cuts you right in half. When you're not moving, you're not doing anything. That's that subway sweat. Like, there it is. That's what it's like to be in New York again. I forgot all about that. I haven't felt that in a while. That's just on a daily basis, things like that. Over and over and over again. To the point where you don't realize it that much when you live here, but when you come back, you're like, yeah, man, look at all this money to live like this. And so, yes, it's the greatest city in the world, but it should be for what you're paying.
Yeah, now I'm not paying that or I wouldn't be here. I've lived in the same building for 17 years. I'm paying the same rent I was paying in the 90s. I always tell people, yeah, I said, people ask me why you're moving to Harlem. I said, because I'm going to be first for a change.
Okay, so before you kick the bucket, I need to be in your inheritance because if I inherit it, it won't raise the rent.
Rent control. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's true. And that's why I never gave up that apartment.
Right.
Because I was a tour guide and I would do a lot of performing arts students and they would talk about moving to New York. I'd say, yo, man, this is the last place. If I were graduating college today as an artist, this is literally the last place on earth I would move. David Byrne from the Talking Heads, he wrote an essay about this, warning young artists not to move to New York. And he said, hey, when I was your age, I lived in Soho in an abandoned factory loft. I was paying $50 a month. It stank of chemicals. It was probably dangerous. And you know what? I developed my style. I developed my sound. I developed my craft. You move to New York now, what are you going to do? Sculpt in your kitchen while you're working 3 jobs? I would never be here if I were paying market rent. Tusker on the subway had some interesting observations.
Well, I mean, I love the subway as public transportation. I'm a huge fan of the subway. But I think the point that I would like to make is as you see those rents rising for New York City, the jobs that those rich people need the working class to service them for, those are still going to be located inside the city. So they are pushing out the working class. They're raising the rents, so they're increasing the property values so they can get more middle class people. Meanwhile, they're pushing the working class out of their own city so they can work outside, and then they will have all the burden of the travel time in order to get there to service those same rich people when they used to be able to live in the city
Yeah.
and have a comfortable, fast ride to work.
Absolutely. Well, the ship has sailed on that. I mean, it's been that way forever.
Well, this is
One of the questions I got as a tour guide most often was, because you assume when you're in an area that the people who pour the coffee in the area or that work the McDonald's in the area live kind of in the area.
yeah.
And you think, how do these people afford to live here? I think they don't. And they can't. They bus in from an hour away out in East New York, out in parts of Queens and the Bronx, and from Jersey City. To make, at the time I was living here, I don't know what minimum wage was. I made $13 an hour as a tour guide at Radio City Music Hall, and that was not minimum wage. So imagine, busing all the way in for that.
They live multiple to a room in New York City housing.
Yep.
Yeah, they say that there's a meme going around on Facebook that for a New York City family, the family heirloom is a rent controlled apartment.
Well, strengths. That's why I'm saying. You want? Yeah. So
That's the reason.
adoption
I got that told my mother.
we're gonna go full Roman style. I adopt you as an adult.
And you can't even take a piss in the city. That's the thing. It's way too hard to take a piss in the city.
Well, no, Adam's just fixing that.
Yeah.
We saw that in
Or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, how's
I got
Yeah.
spoiled. Out the suburbs, you can pull over, take a piss anywhere you want.
That wasn't
That's a huge thing.
That wasn't
They have a bathroom here. That's why this is such a
That's how you got ticks. Picks and like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a popular place. They got the bathroom, right? That's why people love a place with a bathroom. I see a lot of you guys have been taking advantage of that throughout the. How can you not?
I was just going to say, I agree that the rent control apartment is inheritance thing. That's the reason why Jose is trying to get his gay dads to adopt him.
No, Bloomberg literally said, "I want New York to be a luxury product."
Yes.
He said, "I want more billionaires here."
Right.
Hey, you know who kept their bathroom open for the people of New York? Donald Trump. It's true. That's true. Trump Tower open 14 hours a day to the general public, and you can go in. You go down the now famous escalator ride. Excuse me, and you can go and pass the gift shop. Beautiful, the best bathrooms, the cleanest bathrooms anyone's ever seen. Yeah, no one's ever seen bathrooms like that. It's true. I used to go there all the time. I used to go to the Trump Tower all the time because I used to work as a tour guide in the area, and I'd have 2 tours, one after the other. I'd have about a half-hour break. I knew I can get in there and use the bathroom anytime. You know what? The churches should have to open up the bathrooms.
Yeah.
They should really have public bathrooms. Churches should have to open up bathrooms.
Yeah, they'll pay
What about
that.
the universities, Keaton?
All right.
You should be able to piss on the university. Piss on the wall. Definitely outside the wall.
All right, quickly, since it came up, I'll tell the story. All right, so when I was in high school, Trump Tower opened. And I was not the kind of kid to go to a place like that, but you had to go. Everybody went. Everybody went. It was the best marketed building in New York City history. Uh, there's a waterfall in the middle, and it's all marble, and nobody'd ever seen a building like this. Everyone's So, as a 17-year-old, I went to Trump Tower, and yes, it was glistening and waterfalls coming down. But not being the kind of person who would really give a shit about that, I never set foot in there again until after he became president. And I started to have tour groups who were MAGA asking me to take them to Trump Tower. So when I went in, has anyone ever seen Being John Malkovich?
Yes.
Okay, that was very much what it was like, because when I saw Trump Tower as a 17-year-old, it was a normal upscale shopping mall, right? It was all normal businesses. I come back in 2016, and it's all Trump. It's all Trump brand. It's like when John Malkovich went inside his own head. Everything was Trump, 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 Trump grill, Trump's burgers, Trump ice cream, Trump beer, Trump. All the normal businesses had fled. And it was all dingy and run down. I remember it from when it was brand new. It was all just nasty, and the waterfall didn't work anymore. And it was like the Potterstown scene in It's a Wonderful Life. So we may be able to survive more Trump, but based on Trump Tower, it's not going to be pretty.
Please clap.